Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, and welcome to Conscious Talk Radio, and I'm your host, Linda Summers, and we've got an interesting show for you tonight. Our topic is a conversation of personal, unnatural, experience-based happening. And before we get started, I want to let you know a couple things. One, this is a non-organized spiritual conversation, so don't be deceived by the mention of truth. That is a practical conversation. His beliefs and theories are all developed out of a non-cause and effect experiences that are not a pre-thought experiment. So just want to let you know that. And then also, if you have not tuned into our shows, please tune in to the one that we had on August 3rd, How to Attain Windows into Our Interconnected Universe, and also August 10th, The Resistance and Inherent Denial. So with that, let's get started. Hi, and welcome to the show, our unidentified guest.
Yeah, I'm unidentified.
Yes,
I prefer it that way, right?
Yes. We are not going to identify.
No identifying. I think there's always a tinge of fear that all of a sudden you'll pop out my name or something.
No, never going to happen. I'm pretty good at that.
I know you are. You want to throw the question out there, or what do you want to do?
Yeah. It kind of piqued my interest was, well, one, the topic in itself, personal, unnatural, experience-based happening. So the question that really comes to me is, one, we can define that, but I think people might have a concept, so you can define that if you'd like. And if not, then we can go to, when did these start to occur for you?
Yeah, we could even probably do a little of both.
Yes.
But the one thing I know I definitely want to say is that I do want it, for everyone listening, and, I want it to be a practical conversation. And I think the main thing I'm trying to say is it is a practical. If something doesn't coincide with the world we live in, it very well is wrong based on that degree of disconnection with the world we live in. But, and I guess what I'm saying, if you listen to the show, this is what I'm working up to. If there is a truth out there, and I know from my experiences, and this is kind of why I'm here talking, that something funky is going on. But if there is a truth out there that communicates to us, if we don't get in the way, you're only going to be able to tolerate certain degrees of it. And you're going to have a resistance to it for reasons I spoke of in other talks. And that when you have these experiences, they're not owned by you. They might as well be a conversation to you, and then they're done, But you can do things to enhance that experience if you know the boundaries of accessing them. And that's what I was trying to talk about, and I believe, especially in the last one, there's an inherent, there's an inherent denial and hence resistance to them. Now, when I say denial, usually people don't like that, but I do and I don't mean it like we think about is denial. And I know something that I said to you earlier in the weekend, and then I'll let you see where you want to go with this, was in trying to explain it, was that it's not as much as, well, the example of it is anybody, think about everyone you know, and find someone that makes sense. Find someone for me that doesn't have an inability to really just fess up to what's going on. And it's really not fessing up to what's going on. It's just something they're not good at. And some of the things are more clear than others. But they're usually very logical things. They're things that you yourself will look at and say, why isn't this happening? What's wrong with everyone? Why is everyone so disconnected? And the reason I think they're so disconnected is because denial is inherently needed. Not because we're in denial, but because of the force of nature that brings us into existence, must bring us into existence on what I call manifestation points, which usually have to do with great strength and great weaknesses. And people don't always understand the weakness that well. They just perform them, but the strength, they can inherently push through them. And you have to know them well enough to know what the positive and negative pole of them would be. And much of what I'm going to say to develop this stuff is about denial of identity, because if there is the truth out there, the only plausible way of getting to it is taking yourself out of the equation if you're in denial. And I'm stating denial as something inherent to creating you. And I'm sure everyone has questions about that. And I'm not saying this is exactly the truth. It's a form of the speculation based on things that have happened to me. But I haven't been told it directly in one way or another. Maybe I have. But I have to go on a longer explanation.
Yeah, I want to go back to the truth. You said truth being. So I'm not sure. I mean, I know, well, I feel like I can know what you're referring to, but you keep calling it the truth, right? So I'm not sure a lot of the listeners would really have that understanding. What my understanding is what you're considering the truth is the consciousness, or it's the universe, or spirit, God, source, whatever you want to call that, correct?
Yeah, God's an easy proof. And this is something I don't understand why people don't realize. There is no difficulty in proving the existence of God. It's just simple. It goes something like this. You jump up, you fall down, okay? That just happened. I'm talking. That happened. There are some confines to the world, you know. Physics calls it the search for the unified field theory, which is a combination of four natural situations, being electromagnetism, what's called the strong force, the weak force, and gravitation. As physics attempt to find God. But like I said, God is an easy proof. The only thing that's difficult is saying that God has moral statements. Now, of course it would have moral statements in the sense of there is the truth and there is something that opposes the truth. And I think when religions talk about Satan and all this stuff, I think, but you know, I don't know for sure, but I think what that means is that we ourselves have not centered ourselves enough on letting the truth talk to us. We keep thinking that our ideas are so brilliant that they should matter more than that which is around us that is accurate. Because we have the ability to think. We have the ability to formulate ideas. But that ability to formulate ideas always, as well, gives us the ability to formulate beliefs. Because we can look in the past. We can look in the future. We can be traumatized by the past. We can be scared of the future. And in those ideas, we can create a reality. But the reality to be had is not a belief system. The second that you say, I believe this, I believe that, this is an idea in your head, even if it's the right idea. It's not the true sensation. And the true sensation is something that can literally move you. It can literally talk to you, or at least it seems like it's literally talked to me. And what I'm trying to tell people is, given enough time and given the right perspective, I have a feeling it can talk to you too.
Oh, and that's because that was my next question, because you were saying conversations not owned by you.
Say that again?
You said conversations not owned by you. I mean, you're saying that conversation is not owned by that person. So is that what you're referring to by this sensation? I mean, I'm not quite sure how this is.
Yeah, I mean, the sensation of God. The sensation of God. You know, and when I say God, people like to anthropomorphize or understand things within a form they recognize. So otherwise, most of us like kittens and dogs and horses, but we have harder times with snakes and lizards and bacteria and fungiforms, you know, fungi and sea urchins, because they're outside of what we know. So all the more reason that we want God in a human form. But The conversation to be had, what I mean by is not yours, is you can't have a conversation. There is no conversation. There's a connection with sensation. But the contradiction in there is that we know from physics that the subatomic world will react to you in what you want. And we know all sorts of things suggesting that there's one component state. This is what unified field theory is actually looking for. Time and space are a material. They're not this constant that we think they are. They're not what life is built around. And therefore, if you're to have a conversation with God, you must stop having a conversation with yourself. Now, that's only possible to such an extent, right? How are you going to get away from talking from yourself? And that keeps you in denial.
Well, yeah, but then can't you say that we are God?
Of course we are.
Right, so then you're having a conversation with God.
You are. You are God, and I am God. But you are God, and I am God. And so is everyone else talking or listening. So is every rock. So is every element of the universe. Therefore, you are part and parcel to a portion of God. And therefore, you must always be respectful of God. One of the most important things to do if you want the truth, and it's there. It's there. I mean, I know it is. I don't know what it means, but when I was young, I decided to explore. And I got my answers met. It makes me very uncomfortable to say that to people. And this is kind of why I'm doing the radio show. Because I don't have a good place with people with this. Because I'm so far out. You know, I'm so far out into it. And I talk in such a way, that you know, I sound, you know, I think I'm a prophet. I sound like I kind of hate to say that. I don't like it. But inherently, that's what happens to me as people talk about the subject, you know. I've had numerous, like, people from Christianity want me to come to their church because they're like, oh, this is going to be a place for your I forget what they, prophecy or, you know, or whatever it would be. And I'm not saying that's reality or not. I think all these conversations are beautiful. And I'm not saying I do and I don't believe in Christianity. But what I am saying is you are in the way. And that the truth is not something that could be a belief system, or it could not be something that is governed by the material world, because the truth owns the material world. The material world will never own the truth. No matter what it does, it's just in the configuration to serve truth's purpose. And you don't know what that would be, and you better be real careful to think that you do.
Yeah, and I think defining, like, when you're saying it doesn't, like, that doesn't make a lot of sense, that the truth owns it and you don't own it. I don't know if that is a right choice of words of using own, as opposed to that.
Truth. Okay, well, let me explain that. Truth does own you. You don't own the truth, but truth owns you. And the reason I'm saying that is because you are the truth, but you are a part of the truth. You can't violate another person's placement in the truth without your sense of humanity and without your sense of being be damaged. If you go around and injure things knowingly, you will become distorted. So,
if what? Say that again.
If you don't try to see outside of yourself, if you don't try to come to know God, which is really the truth, if you don't try to respect your fellow man, if you don't appreciate everything that ever is and ever was, that component that you miss, you will miss the truth. Right? Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean by that?
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I mean by the truth owns you, because it does. But the truth... Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, when you say see outside of yourself, So what you're saying is it's taking and looking into each individual thing, person, place, thing, because everything is a living thing, is a living being.
Well, you can't look. Well, do you mind if I break in with the thought there, or should I let you finish? Your call.
Yes. Well, I was just going to say, it's like what you're saying is that looking outside of yourself is seeing, well, what I'm hearing you saying is seeing things as God is in everything and realizing that it's all one.
Yeah, exactly. But you are not, the part that you are not in ownership of the truth, because really, you must be, right? If you're the truth, right, you must be in ownership of it, right? Something in you must be of all the truth, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the reason I say you are not in ownership of it is because you, the part of you that experiences things, as opposed to sensation, the sensation of God. The sensation of God is the same thing as when you feel me. When you think of any friend, you actually feel them, you see them, you hear them, you might smell them. I guess it's different from person to person. That is the sensation of God, is the experience of it. But your thought processes, the things that you formulate, are not. And therefore, you do not own the truth, because you have a perspective that can assess. And even probably within the framework of you don't own the truth because your form isn't a full constituent part of the truth, in that the truth has decided to break things up into portions and relationships of the known elements. You know, otherwise there might be some that aren't known. But it very well is understandable to say one of that idea or expansion of that idea that you are a constituent part, and we're not getting into unnatural happenings here. Maybe we should get back to that. But is that, you know, it's not only that you have an identity, you are mostly carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and there's much more in the universe than carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and those things are God, you know. So,
well, this comment will actually lead us into, I think, an unnatural experience-based happening. So because what I hear you saying is that it's like that saying that saying that we are not human, we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Say that again?
We are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yeah, exactly. We are, you can take out the beings. We are God having human experiences would probably be more accurate. Now, we gotta appreciate, because we should always appreciate it, that enough people see God and see what I just said as blasphemy. So, once again, when I say God, I mean the truth. I mean substance of the truth. We are substance of the truth. And therefore, for me and my expressions of that substance of the truth, we are God. Now, but we are a part of God, and we are not owned. We do not own God. God owns us. So, go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to bite that, saying that God owns us, because it sounds so possessive. So I guess I want to say.
No, it's not possessive. It's not, I'm sorry. It's not possessive. It just means we are part of the truth. We are many parts of the truth. Inherent to us is probably all of the truth. Is a relationship, is a sensation that is all the truth. But the thing that processes us, that we process or such, or however I'm saying that, I think I might be saying that wrong, works on things that are of materiality. So, because materiality is in flux, it can be a constituent part of the truth in a certain form. And therefore, the truth owns us in the sense that we are. I mean, the truth owns anything that is. You know what I mean? It creates everything. So when I say own, I don't mean it would necessarily want to kill you or make you do this or no, quite the contrary. It wants to experience things. Exactly what you said. I think it wants you to experience things for the betterment of God. But
Yeah.
so ownership in my right, that's probably me, because I'm flavorful and aggressive, so I might shift it in that sense. But the meaning is still there. But thank you for clarifying that, because I can see how people would misinterpret what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, and then it goes back to, well, really made in the image of God, basically what you're saying.
We are the image of God in much sense, but not in our physical image. Everything else is God.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yes. So let's dive into, so can you give us some examples of some unnatural experience-based happenings that have happened to you? And I guess my question would be is, what do you feel brought them on? And why do you feel that you had these experiences? Is it because you were inquiring? Because we're saying, it's in the very first show, that anybody can have these experiences. Right?
I think, yes. I'm not completely sure, because I'm into astrology, and if you look at my astrological chart, I have something called a Yod, which means the finger of God. And some of the things that my chart suggests are things that I've experienced in unnatural happenings. So I don't know if I have some kind of relationship that's odd. I'm not trying to say I'm more special than anything. I'm just trying to give a full conversation. And unfortunately, my mind thinks in such a way is to always give clarity of the possibilities, I think, because I do want God to be the thing, and therefore I don't want my ideas to be taken as God, as opposed to desiring God, because I am not God. I am just, trying to do what it wants, because
right, but then
I am
back to
part of God.
What you were saying.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. So I have the Yod and stuff like that. But I think besides that caveat, for people that might not know what caveat means, it means just like, by the way, there's also this. Just a scientific way of, if you read scientific papers, they might say caveat. It means, there's this situation here which that I might not be really looking into. So, there is a caveat that I might be something very odd. But beyond that, I think from a practical standpoint, and even if you have these kind of things, sure, you could be something, you could be Superman. But the truth is, if it has a practical nature, who cares? It will get you in trouble. So talking about the practical nature of how I think this happened with me, since I was, I said to you, I think, in a conversation last week, that since I was probably around 6, I would look up in the sky, or I remember looking up in the sky and seeing all the stars and not really knowing the sensation, but the sensation was more God. It was an utter curiosity to know the meaning of life, even at a young age. You remember me telling you that?
Yes.
Well, the thing is, I remembered after that when I was a baby, I think I might have told you this too, I thought a certain experience happened until I was about, and mind you, when we're talking about unnatural happenings, these, I rate them, and these are really weak. They're not even worth calling synchronicities, because there's no way of delineating if they're anything but your imagination. And, I could give examples, but right now we don't seem to be talking about that. But we might be working up to that, caveat, in this direction and that direction. Anyways, when I was an infant, in one of those, like, baby carriages, not baby carriages, but those things that your mother or your father might hold, you're so light that your mother or father could just hold you in this little thing as they walk around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like a pumpkin seed, I think is what they used to call it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember. But I had this experience. Yeah, it had a handle. I had this experience I thought was real until I talked to my mother. I go, remember that? I said basically to my mother, I think this will reveal the story. Mom, do you remember that time where you left me on our cousin's road up to the house when I was an infant, and that horse came up and scared the shit out of me, or something. I wasn't even doing that. I was asking her. I was curious about it. I was asking her if she remembered that. Because basically what I remember is I was crying, and I was left on this road up to my cousin's house, which was, there was a bunch of horses there, and, they were free roaming. And I remember a horse walking up to me on the road, and I could see it saying, "Why are you there? Why are you left there? Are you all right?" Not "are you all right" like something's hurt. Maybe I have to protect you or something to that extent. It felt like something like that. And then as I noticed it talking to me, I just fucking freaked out, excuse my language. And that's all I really remember. I just don't remember anything as his mouth became real close to me. And I knew it was just curious about me. But my mother said that, she would never have left me on the road. So after telling you that, I realized I don't know if it's not a high-level synchronicity. But
can I stop you here and just
I believed it my whole life. I'll tell you that much.
Okay, can I just interject, because what came to me is that maybe your mother was in denial. Maybe it was a possibility that it happened, and that she's in denial of something that she would have done that she would have felt bad about doing.
Well, caveat number one. Yeah, caveat number one. I don't know if that's true. Thought number two. I've said to her, "Mom, there's something strange about me. I can feel things. I have precognitive dreams. I've done all sorts of things." And she once said to me, "Well, do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?" And I said to her at the time, "I think it's a bad thing." And she said, "Good." Now, I love my mother, but it made me think that my mother has some experience with some of this stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it didn't sound like she was saying, "I don't believe you." It sounded like she was saying, "Please don't pay attention to this."
Right, because possibly she had maybe the same thoughts and feelings, and then all of a sudden she's telling her mother, and she's like, "Oh no, that's the devil or Satan, or that's something evil, and you don't want to tap in that." And what do? We shut it down. I mean, how many people are probably listening to this call and had experiences, and somebody just crazy or whatever, and bam, they just shut it down.
Well, and furthermore, that's what they should do.
Well, I don't know. I don't agree with that. I don't think someone. No,
I don't either. I don't either. Let me explain, okay? And I wanted to pause that and make that confusing so people can get irritated and then hear what I'm saying and why I said it. People should do that. Because I think what the truth is for you to be you and for me to be me, we must never completely approach the truth in such a way as that it's all the time. You have to sacrifice your identity. And any one of you or Linda, think about it. How hard is it to stop talking to yourself, right? If you're not doing something, you're probably talking to yourself a good amount of time. I mean, that's what meditation is basically trying to stop talking to yourself. And when you do it, you find God. But how do you explain Eckhart Tolle having these profound, I mean, his life was horrible, and then one morning he wakes up and it's a completely different reality for him. How do you explain that? Things like that have happened to me too. But what I'm saying about that is if you live if you have unnatural happenings that even last for 50% of your life, I guess what I'm saying about them is they happen and then you perceive them and understand them through yourself. But I don't know this for sure, but this is what I think happens. And therefore, even when they're very clear, and actually I think like Eckhart Tolle, and I don't really know much about him, but the reference that you just said, I've been to places that don't exist, I know I have at this point. And they were real. And the part of me that has to resist them is the part of me that doesn't want to live in a world that effect comes before cause. And when I say a world where effect comes before cause, I don't want my world dismantled. And when I say I don't want my world dismantled, I want to know myself as, I almost said my name. Thank God I didn't. I want to know my...
How would you know that your world would be dismantled unless you allowed that experience to play out fully?
Here's the thing. If your world started to get dismantled as far as your true identity started to come in, you would feel something and you would be it. And that being wouldn't be the same thing as Linda. And I don't think much of us could deal with that without losing a certain amount of sanity. What I'll tell you is, and this is the major thing I think that stops us from doing it. There was a time in my life where there's always been a time in my life, and now because I've done that, I can tolerate it better. But there was a time in my life where I really dove into this, and I started feeling like I was going insane because I started losing my structure of reality. And I don't mean the truth. I mean reality. You can have one reality and I'll have another reality. And all of our realities can come together and shed each other's blood. You know what I mean?
Okay, isn't that
a beautiful thing? You experience things... I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. What am I giving examples of?
Well, you said that at one point in your life you did dive into this and that you were going crazy. So can you give a scenario or a sample of something that happened that you dove into this?
Well, sure. I mean, the initial one that got me into this, where I couldn't get out, although I did get out. I denied it happening until my 28th birthday, and then it all rushed back. Every night for 14 nights, I would have a dream that came true the night before. So I'd wake up and, on my 28th birthday, I woke up and I had a dream of what's called a pork bun floating in blackness. I got up, I went to my undergraduate degree, and I was in the biology program. And I was in a class. I don't want to identify it too much. And he's like, well, we're going to go do a field trip to a Chinese market. And we went to a Chinese market, and there were pork buns there. And then it all rushed back to me. And what rushed back to me was the following. And I denied it because I couldn't fit it into my world. And if I were to try, as I had tried for 2 weeks after this event, I just couldn't process it. It was too much. I didn't understand what was going on, how it could have happened, where it was, what it was, why isn't it there anymore. I went someplace that didn't exist. But I don't even know if I went to someplace that didn't exist. I don't know if something that didn't exist came to me. So let me tell you basically what happened. And I'm not telling you some things that I don't feel like sharing. But I'm only not sharing my speculations of maybe why it happened. But none of those are important. Not that they might not be important, but, caveat, caveat, caveat. So basically, I'm probably about 16 years old, and I haven't lost you. Have I, Linda?
No. I'm following you. So, because you were talking about you were 28 and you had this experience, but when it first happened, it sounds like you're going to go back to 16.
Yeah.
Because that's when
yeah,
is that right?
I think I told you this one. Well, when I had that dream that came true, and then for the next 14 days I had a dream came true, and on my 28th birthday, which that happened, which is what's called your Saturn return, which is where the sky is in the same exact configuration as when you were born, I found myself, and I don't even remember having the conversation. All of a sudden, I'm sitting at the lunch table at my undergraduate degree, and I'm saying, God, if there's something strange about me, I can deal with it. And I don't remember initiating that thought. Forget about initiating the conversation. All of a sudden, I'm there at the lunch table saying that. And it was on my 28th birthday, and I don't know where it came from. And then the next day I had a dream that came true, and that was the pork bun floating in space, which I haven't explained yet. Well, I've explained it in the sense that I went to this, it turned out that a teacher took us on a surprise field trip to a Chinese market where there was a pork bun, and I hadn't seen a pork bun since I was 16. And I'm about to explain what that was. But for every day, I had a dream that came true for 14 days. And by the end of those 14 days, I knew I couldn't deny it anymore. And that's resistance, and that's denial. This is a great example. We all have it. We all have things that break reality, but we choose not to remember them. They're so destructive to our belief systems that we just look the other way. And we look the other way so strong that we no longer see it. And that's what happens to all of us. And that's what I mean by the resistance of the inherent denial, because when we see something, we want to hold on to ourselves. And ourselves are part and parcel to a denial of God. Because we are almost separate, but we're not really separate, but we're trying to make ourselves separate.
Yeah, so wouldn't you agree that at 28, you don't really know what you don't know? I mean, 28 is completely different from
I'm saying in a big way, Linda. I'm saying in a big way, you don't know anything. You don't know what you don't know, period. I'm saying...
No, but I'm saying at the age of 28, to have that experience that's so profound like that, I think anyone at the age of 28 would feel that way of, oh my gosh, like, are you kidding? Like,
yeah. And I haven't said it. Let me say the experience, because I haven't said it yet, because it's real profound. Either I'm psychotic or I'm telling you guys the truth. That's the question you're going to have to ask yourselves.
Well, I know you're not psychotic, so...
Yeah, I don't think I'm psychotic, but caveat, I might be. But I don't think I am, and, I've been to psychiatrists. I've had people try to get priests to exorcise me, and the priest got, listened to me for 20 minutes and said, there's nothing wrong with you. I've had psychiatrists and all sorts of people say, yes, I believe you're something very special. So they don't only not think that I'm psychotic, some of them think I'm made to be famous. And these are the people that I'm counting on to tell me I'm full of shit. But anyway, let me tell you this. Let me tell you the story when I was 16. So I loved food. More than anything, I loved food. I would walk as Lincoln would walk 20 to 30 miles to read a book. I would walk 20 to 30 minutes to have a cream cheese bagel. So I grew up with this little square, and it would take me like 20 minutes to walk, and there was a bunch of merchants there, and I could walk across it in like 10 minutes from one side to the other side, walk to the, from north to south. It would take me about 10 minutes, I think, 10, 15 minutes, and then I could, walk to, west to east in about the same time. So it wasn't huge, and I'd hung out there from like 14 to 16, like every day, throwing croissants at people from Walden Books. I was a rat to this place. Everyone knew me in there, and I would go to the store owners and blah blah blah. I was throwing croissants at people because the manager of the bakery liked me, so I would come in when it closed, and he would give me all the bakery stuff that they didn't sell. Anyways, I loved food, and I would go down to this square all the time. I would hang out there and play video games or hang out with all the tough kids and all that kind of stuff. And I was walking down this one street that I knew very well. The Walden Books was on one side, and they had this dumpster, and they had these books, and they would tear off the covers of the books because they would return the covers to get their money back. And me and my friend would look through them and try to find books we wanted to read. And then on the other side was, it was, I forget what they're called. It's sort of like Rite Aid, but not really. They had everything in it. It's a store where I live. That kind of store is relatively common, and I don't want to tell you where I live. But anyways, so I knew it really well. I knew it very well. We would pick out, there was parking lot there, and we would go through every meter seeing if somebody didn't know how to turn the key to make the quarter go down into the meter to give them some time to park. So that's how we got our quarters to play video games. So, and we did this like 3 times a week in every single parking lot in the entire square. We knew this place real well. We were the rats of this place, and proudly so. But so anyways, I was walking down that street, and all of a sudden on my left, I think the first store was this bakery, and I was like, I don't remember a bakery being there. And so I walked into the bakery because I'm like, oh, cookies. I'm going to go have a cookie. So I walk into the bakery, and there's this, I think she shows up. I'm looking, and I'm like, this isn't a cookie. What is this? I couldn't identify anything in it. I just simply didn't know what was in this bakery. It had both, like, it wasn't as much as sweets as it was like food sweets. It was different, and I didn't recognize it, and I didn't know what it was. And there were large ovens for cooking these things, and the floor was covered with like a thin layer of like flour or something. They had glass displays with all the different kind of food items. And my mouth was watering. My mouth was watering. I couldn't think of anything better than to try something that looked sweet, but I had no idea of what it was because it all looked very good. So this Chinese woman comes out, and I go, what is all this? And she goes, I don't remember what she said. She probably said, oh, stuff, I don't know. Oh, I think she just started saying this is this. She just started saying things. I was like, well, what does that mean? What is it? And I go, well, what do you think I should get? And she goes, well, you probably like one of the buns. And I go, what do you mean? And she points to these different buns. She's like, we've got pork buns, we got whatever. There's 20 million different kinds. Not 20, but maybe 5. And basically what they were was this bread, and with something in the middle. And getting back to my 28th birthday from this, the reason he wanted us to go there is to say, hey, different society eat things that other societies simply don't have in their diet. And one of those things was either this kind of flour or this kind of bread that pork buns are made out of, or some, I forget exactly how it goes, but something like that. So anyways, I go, okay, well, I'll have the pork bun. And she got me these pork buns, and oh, my God. I sat there with my little bag of pork buns, like 4 or 5 of them. And I bought one, I think, and then I came back and I bought like another 4 or 5. And then I don't remember what happened, which is interesting. I don't remember doing anything besides leaving that bakery and walking home, which makes no sense because it would have taken me a half an hour to walk to the square to begin with. So I don't know why I would walk all the way there to the bakery, then walk all the way back. And mind you, this is many, 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 many years ago, so I might not remember something right? Caveat. But something tells me I just walked into that bakery and walked home. And I had my face in these pork buns. I was, as we all know, when we like something a lot, we're almost intoxicated with the taste of it, right? Yeah. That's what this was like. This was the best tasting thing I'd ever had in my life. And for every day, from there on, I would go to this little Chinese bakery. I don't know. Sometimes I'd probably go every day because it was a half an hour away, and I had to get money from my parents, or I had to pick quarters out of the parking meters, which I'm sure I did plenty. I had to go there on a regular basis as much as I could. I'm getting the get the money thing confused with it. I went there as much as I could. It was probably every day, every third day at the most. And I would get these pork buns, and I would sit there in ecstasy eating the pork buns. One day I went to get my pork buns, and probably talked, last time I'd been there was 3 days ago. And then, I'm looking at the store, and it's not a bakery, it's a dry cleaning business. And they have dry cleaning machines, and there is no flour on the floor, and there is no cases of pork buns and whatever else they had that day. And there is no Chinese woman, and none of it ever existed. And what I did is I was so shocked. I just assumed, because people need to listen to me, this was real. If it hadn't been for it not being there, I would have been there, and I was there. You know what I mean? It was there. I don't think I'm psychotic. I could be psychotic and could have hallucinated the whole thing, but I don't think I am. Anyways, what I did, and this is where the stress comes in, and this is where the resistance and the denial and having to block it away. But mind you, I guess this is just a higher level, but it could be, we've all had stuff like this, and God allowed me to remember. You know, I said, hey, God, you know, there's something, I don't even remember saying this. I was just like, I mean, I remember saying it, but I don't remember how I said it. I don't remember where it came from. I just found myself at the lunch table saying, hey, God, if there's something odd about me, I can deal with it now, is exactly what I said. I can deal with it now, and that fucks me up in the head. Because that statement, I can deal with it, because here's the thing, I know what I'm talking about. I didn't want to know that there might be something with me. And I was saying, hey, God, if there's something about me, I can deal with it now. And it's this kind of thing that really fucks me in the head, because I do think that. Underneath me, inside me, is this thought about something about
I would
me.
say, I don't know if I would say it's as a thought as it is a feeling inside you.
Yeah, it's a strong feeling. It's a strong feeling. It's not a thought, because in many ways, I don't like it. Oh, and I want to repeat that. In many ways, I don't like it. I can't deal with it. It's so intense. It makes things happen that aren't real. You know, and I've got to process that, and I don't want to process that. I don't want my reality to be just shredded against the fucking rocks. I don't want to see something that doesn't exist. I don't want to know something that I shouldn't know. I don't want any of that. And I think what I was saying up to my 28th birthday was, okay, God, even though I don't remember why or how I had this conversation, I was saying, all right, God, if there's something odd about me, I can deal with this now. I can deal with it. I was asking it to allow me to know. And then I had a dream that came true every day for 14 days, and I couldn't step back from it. It was too late. I asked for it, and I was given that because I was open to God, I guess. And it saw me.
Yeah, but was it a bad experience? Was the dream for 14 days in a row that came true, was it bad?
No, well, how could something like that be bad? You go to sleep and you see a pork bun, and the next day you see a pork bun, which you haven't seen since you were 16, and furthermore, of a place that never existed, that after it happened, for 3 days after it didn't exist, for 3 days after it was no longer there, a fucking bakery with ovens replaced by a dry cleaning business with dry cleaning machinery, right? It's not possible for that to happen. It was probably a day. But even if it was 3 days, that's just simply not possible. Or the whole universe is conspiring against me to have this truck come in the middle of the night. Look, come on, guys, do this quick. Joe's gonna, he's gonna come. He's gonna come and he's gonna get these pork buns. You know, we've got to do this quickly. You know, it's stupid. It's dumb, but it happened. And then for the next 3 days, I searched. I searched confused. I searched crying. I searched with pain in my brain because I didn't know what was happening. I couldn't make it make sense. I searched the entire square, and I couldn't find it. But I knew where it was the whole time. I knew exactly where it was the whole time. Walden Bookshop, that weird store on my left, the bakery on the left side of the street in between these two places, the first store on the left, maybe the second, but I'm pretty sure it was the first at this point, a long time ago. I had such trauma from it that I chose to forget it. And for, long years I forgot until I said to God, listen, I can deal that there's something strange about me. And what did God do for that first dream? And mind you, people keep in mind why and how I say God, okay? I probably mean it in the same way that everyone else has said God, that knows the experience. I know the experience, and I know why I say God. Anyways, I'm getting carried away. So it brings me back to this experience of this place. One of the grandest things, because How could it happen? And the thing with the horse might have been another one. And I went to some other place that didn't exist and I thought it existed, and there's probably other ones. I thought I worked at a McDonald's for 15 or 20 years until I realized I didn't. I went to get a job at the McDonald's, but they turned me down. But I have memories of working there for a year and a half, or 2 years. And I just had to come to the conclusion that those memories were somehow fabricated. So that's a little bit of the conversation. Your go, Linda.
You also talked about parallel universes, and maybe at the time you didn't know about that. I mean, can we be tapping into, because I feel what really separates us from heaven, so to speak, is this veil, it's right in front of us, but our consciousness, our vibration is not high enough where it seems as though yours was heightened from the time of asking questions. Who asks those kind of questions at 6 years old? A lot of people do, right?
Well,
so that's inquiring into the truth. And so maybe you're
before that. Yeah, it's a practical statement. I said to you since I was 6 years old, but very well since I was an infant, since I could be carried in something small like that. I very well had an experience of something that didn't exist. So
right.
So whatever, but whether it's my nature and whether the Yod creates that nature, but you know, the point is not. I hate to make it just a moral statement because I want people to know that this stuff is open to them. I want to know and I want to believe that they can experience the same thing. And I know, for instance, Linda, you yourself want to, and I know you have, you know. And I know a lot of other people have. And I guess I'm here to tell you, don't make a fantasy out of it. It's not a fantasy. It's not a fantasy. You have to make it a reality.
But also,
it means not to be discerning, though. Well, you're going to be frightened. It's going to frighten you at times.
No, but I'm to the fact that people go into, and I would allow that person to have their own experience, not based upon your experience.
Yes, but thank you. Linda, you're doing so well, and you know what I'm talking about. Inside joke, right? Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the way I experience things are the way I have a lot of forms of trauma. The next person might not. I do think everyone would have a degree of trauma based on my theory of what's going on. And my theory is based on happenings that I've had. I can't understand it any other way.
Yeah, but you can't even say someone else could be traumatized by it. It's a possibility. I'm not saying it's not a possibility, but
yes, you're right.
you and I and everybody else, we have no idea what that person's capable of receiving. I mean, I think it's different for everybody on their own journey.
Well, yeah, but here's another thing I think, and if people were to listen to whole shows, they'll hear me talking about that. Although I don't like to say it, I think God basically visited me in my bedroom as I was waking, telling me I was a teacher. And then some events happened later that had been building up for months where I write this personal ad because I want people to know I'm a teacher and that you should come learn from me. And then I was going to go get this book called Ishmael because that was going to be my symbolism to stop reading all the physics, get back into meditation as I had thought since I was 17 was the path, and other things like this that are born out of that. And then I go get this book, you know, to start that journey to try to convince myself to do it or that say I'm going to do it. And in it is the personal ad I just wrote within like 5 pages. And I was like, what the hell? So in that idea of wanting to create that group, I have the experience and I have the knowledge. And maybe I have more than most people, probably. But here's the deal. You know, if we are the same thing, if we come together There's an electromagnetic field amongst us. We interact, we connect. The subatomic world, something called the observer effect. You can't try to change a subatomic particle without it changing itself before you try to change it. Let me say that again. The observer effect. You can't experiment on a subatomic particle moving at the speed of light, and set up an experiment to change it without it first changing itself before it getting there, which means it somehow has knowledge of what you're doing. The world is an interconnected dynamic. It will communicate with itself, and it will come up and above. And to some extent, I think what I'm hoping, and I know that you're kind of hoping it too, is we can start that kind of group amongst the listeners, and also maybe a physical group where we bond that together and bring that energy up for everyone. As that energy becomes higher for people, it will be easier for them to attain. And then at that point, whatever's capable is capable. All we need is the actual dirt time, meaning people have to work. If people want something, they have to work. That's only practical.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it sounds good. Yeah, definitely. Well,
yeah, I like it.
Okay, so, I would have wanted to ask you about the Saturn return, but we've got about 3 minutes left. So I think where I really kind of want to go is in this last question of asking you, so what would you want our listeners to know about this
I know
whole
exactly
experience?
what they play with this. Know that you're going to be resistant. Know that you're going to be disbelieving, but go for the sensation. Go for the juggler and feel it. It's there in everything, and you will come to know that feeling. And as you come to know that feeling, you can know God by that feeling. If you sacrifice yourself,
there's going to be resistance.
What?
I don't think you can tell someone they're going to be resistant.
I'm not sure I can tell them. They might not be resistant, but I think I mean I don't think it's that easy for me to communicate what I mean by resistance. I think I'm using the best word I can find. I'm not sure there's language for what I mean, and it would take me a lot to explain it, and I've tried. But I don't think I mean resistance or denial in the way that most people understand, and they're going to be very resistant to me. But, adapting that language would be useful, but there's no language for it, so all I can do is explain it. And to explain it well means I talk a lot about it, because it not only doesn't have words, but, when something doesn't have words, it means no one's talking about it, so the conversation is new and needs a lot of explanation. And I feel pretty certain that if I were to do that and sit you down in a month-long course, you would agree with me without me brainwashing you.
Yeah.
So,
and I think too, what I hear you saying, and I don't want to say telling people that they're going to be resistant, but what I know that from my experience with you is what you're really saying to them. You're asking this question: are you ready? Because when you ask, be careful what you ask, because you will receive. And when you do, be also discerning. That's what I hear you saying.
It's very important to be discerning. It's not a fantasy. Don't make it a fantasy. If you want to know God, and I'm telling you, you can. If I can, you can. Sure, maybe I've been doing it a long time, but to tell the truth, it really doesn't matter. It's just a sensation. Sit there with it, and it will feed you. But you won't recognize what it is. It will be hard for you to recognize what it is. And that's a form of what I mean by resistance. But it is it. Any sensation is God. But, it can be hard to differentiate that sensation between violent impulses before what you deem as love, You have to know, you have to be able to discern. You're right. You have to bring that discernment in. And as you bring in that discernment, as you question things and delineate your reality to God's reality, you will not only learn to feel. So when I connect with someone's sensation, I see things, I feel things. I can say, are you feeling this? People will be like, yes. Did this happen to you when you were 6? Yes. Blah, blah, blah. It's because when you get into that sensation, at least with people, but I know with plants too, because I've done it with plants, and I've done it with animals, When you do it, when you fall into that sensation, it starts telling you more. Out of that sensation, you just go, it must be doing this. This image comes to you because the sensation so clearly talks to you. Sometimes those images aren't exactly what you think, but if you delineate and discriminate how that information is coming at you, you can learn.
And maybe we're out of time, but maybe the next show we'll talk about know God, because I think I wrote that down because it's just, I think it's very key of what you're, when you say to know,
everything.
people can interpret that in a very different way. So,
But hold on, let me say one thing. You can't know God. It knows you. You have to be open to God. It's different.
That might be the next show. We'll talk about that. But thanks so much for being on the show. We're out of time. Hopefully we get this recorded, but thanks so much, honestly. It was a great conversation.
Yeah. It was fun. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And thank you for all the listeners out there who joined us today and the ones who will be joining us via YouTube. And thank you so much. Please follow, subscribe, comment, and like us. And you can join me on Thursday, the 27th, for the next show, Success and Love, from Self-Love to Deep Lasting Love with Annette Perry. So thanks again. We really appreciate you being on the show today. And we'll see you next Monday.
Bye.
All right. Bye.